So I want to talk about one of the benefits of enrolling our training. We understand that most of our students are working class or students. I mean, maybe university students or working class. So we hold our trainings at nights like this. Outside that, we hold training just twice a week. Twice a week. This allows you to do your assignments. We give you enough time to do your assignments and also to do whatever thing you will need to get done in your personal life. Now, let's start today's class. Today, we are going to look at some tags. Number one, we'll look at the strong tag. Strong tag. Then, we'll look at the EM tag. EM tag. So, let's see what you use the strong tag for. You use this strong tag to show that something is important. To show that something is important. Then you use the EM tag to lay emphasis on something. The strong tag is to show that something is important. Why this EM is to stress a particular thing. You know, when you stress it, you are also laying emphasis on that. But look at it this way. See the EM as weak emphasis and see the strong tag as strong emphasis. So the strong shows it is important, very important. But the EM shows emphasis, which can also mean that it is important. But the strong shows very important. Do you understand the difference? Let's look at examples together. Let's look at examples together so that you understand when to use the strong tag and when to use the EM tag. So let's say I'm writing about mushrooms. Mushrooms are good delicacies. Then after writing, let me put this in a P tag. Now, while writing about mushroom, I also want to lay emphasis that some of them are poisonous. Now, look at something. Come, go live. Now, mushroom are good delicacy. Then I wrote some texts here. Like this, maybe I have many texts on the screen. This lorem is a shortcut to generate random text for you. Lorem, I pressed lorem. If you want to generate just random texts, you can press lorem. And it depends on the number of, you can say lorem times 1000. So this is going to generate 1000 text for you. We have this. So it's going to write 1000 times. We have this. I just have this just for us to see that we have a lot of text on the screen. Sorry, someone wants to join. So I think this is too much. It's much more than what we need. I think 100 is fine, or even 50. This lorem, when you type lorem like this, you are saying that it generates random text for you. Okay. So we have this. Now let's assume I now want to show that a part of this is important. A part of this is important. For instance, the mushroom part that we talked about the other time. So let's say everything, assume that everything we have here, everything inside this lorem, they're about mushroom. Just assume that. Well, it isn't about mushroom, but assume that all of these texts, they're about mushroom. So I also want to say that a part of it, I want to show that, some mushroom can be or are poisonous. So I'm placing this in strong tag to show that this particular line, this some mushroom are poisonous, it is very, very important. This strong tag is to show importance. So for that reason, when we get to the browser, you see that that part will be bold. Let's scroll up. Some mushroom are poison. Can you see that this part is bold? Are we following me? Hello everyone. Please, can we hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So you use the strong tag to show importance, that this particular text, the text here, the texts here are important. That is what you use the strong tag for. And as you can see, it is bold. Now, some people now use the strong tag to make text bold. No, don't use the strong tag just to make text bold. Use the strong tag to show that the texts here are important. That is the essence of using the strong tag, not just to make text bold. You use the strong tag to show that the text they are more important than other texts around that part, not just to make text bold. If you need to make text bold, you are going to do that using CSS. So let's proceed. Let me delete all of these things. Any question on the strong tag before we leave the part? The strong tag make text bold. Let's look at the EM tag. The EM tag writes texts in italics. It italicizes texts. So let's say I want to write the ShopRite slogan. Lowest prices you can trust. The always is emphasized, is stressed than other words. The always. This always like this is stressed than other words. So we can wrap it with EM tag. So we are stressing this word always. As you can see, it is wrapped with EM tag to show that we are stressing it. It is important, but not as important as the strong tag. The EM tag is not as important as the strong tag. The EM tag is to stress a word. You know, when you stress a word, of course, you are laying emphasis on it, but it's not as important as the strong tag. So look at the result on the screen. The always is in italics, but don't use the EM tag just to italicize words. Don't. If you need to italicize words, you have CSS to do that. The essence of this is, the essence of the EM tag is to show that this word is stressed. Any question? Can we move on? Let's proceed. So we're going to look at another interesting tag. This is the input tag. Input tag. Use the input tag to get text from users. Is a self-closing tag, just like the IMG. You know, IMG is a self-closing tag. So also the input tag is a self-closing tag. When you write this, I think someone wants to join. Let me quickly admit the person. So the input tag is a self-closing tag. Let's run it on the browser and see the results. Can you see these inputs? Can you see that we have an input on the screen now? Now users can text, or can write text inside the input. The input tag is used to collect text or to collect information from users. That is the essence of the input tag. So I want to quickly close Safari and go back to Chrome so that all of my work will be on Chrome. Okay. So the input tag is used to collect text from users. Something like you are filling a form. Just look at it this way. When you want to collect information from users, you make use of the input tag to get that done. Please let's mute our mic. Now we have different types of attributes for this. This input tag has a type. One of them is text. In fact, that is the default. That is the default type. Meaning that if you don't put any type, if you write it like this, and you also write this, they are going to do the same thing. The type, please let's mute our mic.
Eligo John should please mute. Eligo John.
Okay. So, let me close this. Sorry. The input tag has a type. Now you can set it as text. One thing I want us to notice is that if you write ordinary input like this, and you also write type text, they mean the same thing. The default type is text, meaning that whenever you don't put any type, the default is text. The default type is text. This line and this line will give you the same result. But it's always good you write it out in full. It's always good. Let's look at other types. Let's go to the browser and see the result of this. So we have two inputs. Let's look at other types. We have input type number. This is used to collect numbers from users. If you notice something, when you are on a website and let's say they ask for your PIN, if you are visiting the website on your phone, you will notice that it will pop up numbers, not text now, not ABC and all of that. It will pop up numbers. That's because this is type number. When it's input type number, it means that it's expecting you to type numbers. So let's go to the browser and see something. So look at it. Do you notice this up and down? This shows that it is type number. You can enter a number inside the place. Let's look at other input types. We have input type color. This is used to get color from users. Maybe you want them to choose a color. So I think I mistakenly typed letter S. So let me remove that one. Okay. So this is used to choose colors. You are telling your users to select colors. Let's look at other input types. We have input type email. This is used to get email address from your users. Then we have input type password. This is used to get password from users. Let's look at something. For the password, I will try to type some text inside this place. Do you see the way it is displaying it? It's not making the text visible because it is input type password. We have input type dates. We have input type time. We have a lot of input types. Do you have any questions so far? So the input type is used to, the input is used to get information from your user. Then you can now set the type to state the type of information you're expecting the user to supply. So let's look at something together. Let's say I want to have a registration form. Let's go to facebook.com. Let's say sign up Facebook. Sign up Facebook. So we want to build this form together. This. Okay. This is an input, this is an input. In fact, everything here, they are inputs. Let's go to the first one. This shadow, we are coming back to this shadow inside it. This first name, the shadow inside this place, we are coming there. But for now, let's ignore it. We have it tonight also. So I'll say first name, input type text. Then last name. Sorry, someone wants to join. last name is also input type text. So what other thing do we have on the screen? Phone number or email address. Let's use only email address at our home then. Email. So we're going to use input type email. But let's assume you want to write that phone number or email address. Then input type text will handle it better. Let's say you want to say email or phone number. So that would be, it's better you just write text. Because if you only want to get email address from users, then email will be better. Okay, what else do we have there? New password. So new password, input type password. Then this, these are selects. We are coming back to this also. We're going to do all of this tonight, but let's do this gender. Let's do this gender. Now we've looked at text, we've looked at email, we've looked at password. We want to look at one input type called input type radio. Input type radio. Input type equals to radio. Let's see how this looks on the screen. This is what we've done so far. So the first name and the, what's this? The first name and his input, last name and the input, email and input, new password and input. Now, do you see this? These dots. This is a radio button. That is what input type radio does. What you're trying to do is, we want to do this thing. This is input type radio. Input type radio allows your user, use it whenever you want your user to choose just one out of multiple items. I come again. Use input type radio whenever you want your user to choose one out of multiple items, out of many options. So for now, I will cut this one out of it and let us focus on radio. We'll come back to that part. Let me just paste that here so that when we need it, we just come back and copy it from this place. Okay. So let me save this also. Let's focus on this radio. You use input type radio to allow your users to choose just one out of multiple items. Let's say I want to do that of gender. Since you want your user to choose just one out of the available genders that you are going to display, then radio is the best input type to use. So let's say I have male, then I have female, so let's say we want our users to choose just one. Let's add third one. Don't bother me. So we want our users to choose just one out of these three. Then you make use of input type radio. Now when we go to the screen, to the browser, sorry, let me quickly accept this paper. When we get to the browser, for now, your users will be able to select the three, but that's not what we want. We want a situation where our user will only be able to select one out of them, and in fact, that is the purpose of the radio button. So what you are going to do is this: you are going to introduce something we call name attributes. Name. You are going to give the same name to the three of them. The same name. It can be anything, but just know that whatever you give to this first, you must also give to the second, and you must also give to the third one. So I can call this gender. Name. Gender. Name. Gender. So the way it works is that when you have the same name attribute in input type radio, they can only have one representative. They can only have one representative. So we have three gender, 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 gender. It means that I can only select one out of these three. By putting the same name attribute, we are grouping them together and we are saying that our users should only be able to select one out of these three inputs. So let's go to the browser now and look at the results. If I select the first and I select the second, you can see that it has unchecked the first that I chose. If I select the third, it will uncheck the second. If I do this, it will uncheck this. If I select this, it will uncheck it. So I can only select one out of these three. This is input type radio. In input type radio, you can only choose one out of many available options. Just note that you need to give all of them the same name attribute. They need to have the same name attribute. Let's say we want to allow our users to be able to choose one out of, let's say, bag and shoe, just one. Then we say bag input type radio, then name equals to, I can call it wears, then shoe input type radio, then name will also be wears. So now your users can only choose one out of the two. So if I select this and I select it as uncheck this, I can only choose one out of these two. These three also, I can only choose one out of these three. I can't choose two at a time. Any question on input type radio? Okay, let's move on. Want to look at input type checkbox. Input type checkbox allows your users to be able to select many options. Like, it allows us to be able to select many out of the available options. They can choose more than one. For radio, they can only choose one. But for checkbox, they can choose many out of that group. You know, by giving these three the same name attribute, you are grouping them together, and with radio, they can only choose one. But what we want to look at is, we want to look at checkbox. With checkbox, they can choose many in a particular group. So I will change this radio now to checkbox. 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 So now users can now select two gender in this particular group. They can select two gender. In fact, they can even select the three if they want to. Look at it. Now they can select three. They can uncheck it if they want to. So checkbox is to allow your users to be able to select many out of the available options. Any questions?
Can they check all?
Yes, they can check all if they want to. Any question?
I'm just joining, so I want to know the radio box and the checkbox box, because I know that this checkbox box you can select as many as possible. Why this radio box? I didn't get it.
The radio allows them to choose just one out of the many options.
That's different. So when you want to select two options, so you can use checkbox rather than radio.
Yes. Okay, let's proceed. So back to the page that we were building the other time. I can now cut this back and bring it here. So we now say, let's go back to this page. Facebook. So we have female, then a radio button, male, a radio button. All of these design, they are done with CSS, so we are not going to design it. CSS is to make things beautiful. So male, we say input type. Oh, sorry, radio. Since your users will only able to choose one. Female. Input type. Radio. Sorry, I think someone wants to join. Then custom. Custom. Oh, I didn't close this. Custom. Input type. Radio. So I want to give the same name attribute to the three of them. So we have this. So we have this. Maybe you are not okay with the way they are all on the same line. If you are not okay, you can break it. The first name, surname, they are together on the single line. Then phone number is another line. So let's do that. You can break it. I think this is surname. So that introduces us to another tag called the BR. The BR is a self-closing tag. The BR breaks, or it's or a good way to just view it as it breaks things to the next line. So it's going to break codes to the next line. Once you have this BR, then it will break codes to the next line. With that now, this email will be on another line. It's not going to be on the same line with this surname. The BR stands for break. So we have these two. Then you can break this email also to another line. Anyway, with CSS, you'll be able to design your page and make it even prettier than what you have presently. Sorry, someone wants to join. Then I feel this email is too close to this first name and surname, so I want to break it again to another line. So I'll make this 2. Note that we are not closing this BR because it's a self-closing tag. We are not closing it. We are only making it 2. This is another BR. We are only making it to a self-closing tag. Or if it looks confusing, I think it's better to do it this way. It's better to do it this way. So I think this is fine now. Then I will copy this, paste it here. Then don't worry, when you learn CSS, you will enjoy these things better. I mean the beauty, you'll be able to beautify it and make things look cool. So we have this now. I can type my information here.
And then we put email and the password on the same line.
Okay, we can do that too. So let's move this BR here. And they'll be on the same line now. Okay. So they're on the same line now. We have this. Now, let's look at another interesting thing about this input stack. We want to look at something we call, okay, yesterday, I think this is better. Yesterday I mentioned screen reader. Who can tell me what screen readers are used for? Who can tell me? I mentioned screen readers yesterday. Who can tell me the purpose of screen readers? Who can tell us what screen readers are used for? Okay. Yes, you can. Martins, you have the floor. Please help us. Help us, brother.
Sorry, it was a mistake.
Okay.
I just returned.
You can still help us.
Like, I just rejoined, so I don't know what you guys are talking about. I had a network issue.
Okay, yesterday we talked about screen readers.
Okay. I think if
Maybe.
if the person couldn't read the what's it called, so he use the image. I think so.
Good.
I can't remember.
All right.
I think Can I try?
Yes, sir.
I think screen reader is actually used for like an alternative something, just to get the concept of what is displayed. For example, if you have an image and maybe the image is not like, just to give an for example, if you have an image and to give the name of the image maybe under the image in case the image is not showing,
Okay.
so the person can have the idea of what is there, especially like the example you made, like after putting the picture of OBJ, so just to put like a note, like okay, this is the image of OBJ. So even if the picture is not showing, the person knows, have an idea that okay, there's an image here.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. So, you've all talked well about what screen reader is. Now, let me add this. Screen readers, they are not just meant for images. In fact, they are meant to read everything on your page, image inclusive. Image inclusive. But just, if someone can't see your screen, then the person will not be able to see the image. And well, how do you expect screen readers to read out images? It's not possible. That's why we have the odds to help us read, so that at least the person making use of the screen reader will now know what that image is about, since the person cannot see the image. Now, we are also going to talk about the screen readers now. When we have email here and you are expecting the person to fill his or her email address here, unfortunately, if you can't see my screen, let's assume you can't see my screen. Yes, it's going to read out email, but it's not going to, how do I say, it's not going to make them know that this input is for email address. I don't know if you get it. Look at something. I'll go back to the code now. This input is like every other input. Okay, yes, this will explain it better. Look at this first input and look at this second input. Can you tell me any difference between the two? Both of them are input type text. Both of them are input type text. So technically, if you can't see my page, if you are using screen reader, there is no way for anybody using screen reader to know that this first input is for first name and the second one is for surname. The person will not know. That's because they can't. If you're unable to see my screen, then you won't be able to know that, oh, this is here and this one is meant for this place. I don't know if you get it. For those using screen readers, there is no way for them to know that this input is for first name, and there's no way for them to know that this input is for surname. They are unable to know. So we now want to make that possible, so that for those using screen reader, they'll be able to know that, oh, this input, there's an input here, and this input is meant to take first name. Then there's another input here, and it is meant to take surname. There's another input here, and it is meant to take email. There's another input here, it is meant to take password. There is another one here, we have radio buttons here, and I like that. Do you understand what we want to do now?
Yes.
Okay. So that brings us to what we call label tag. Label tag. This label, you're going to put your first name here. What we have here is what we remove this one from this place. The text here is what anybody viewing your page, anybody seeing your page will see. But we are yet to handle that of screen readers. We are going to see how we handle it now. We are here to handle that of screen readers. So I will come here and I'll put an attribute called for. Input for. I can say F name or first name. So we want to tie this label with this input. We want to tie them together, so that we will now know that this label is meant for these inputs. So to do that, to tie them together, we will come here and give this an ID. The ID you're going to give it must be the same as this for. So this will also be first name. Do you understand? I think someone wants to join. I want to quickly admit this person before going back to my class. So I come again. You are going to bring what's it called, a tag called label tag. Then you put a text that people viewing your page can, I mean anybody seeing the page will be able to see this. Now come here and say for, then put this and tie them together. By putting for, if since this for and this ID they are the same, now you've been able to tie them together. When screen reader gets here, it's not going to tell the person that, oh, this input is for, or this label is for this input. Let me show you something interesting. How we click on this first name, note I'm clicking on the first name, not on the input. I come again. I want to click on the first name, not on the input. But see what happens. You know, I click on the first name. Can you see that it focused on the input? I refresh again. I will click on the first name. You know, I click on it, it will focus on that input. Do we get it? So when screen reader gets here, screen reader now knows that this first name is meant for this input. We're going to do the same thing to this surname. Come here, add label. Come here and say surname. Then give it an attribute called for surname. Then ID surname. So that's how you're going to do for all of them. So if I click on this word, on this text surname, it will focus on the input also, as you can see. That is what we have there. So this is primarily for screen readers. It's good you consider screen readers while building your application. Else, you won't give some people the privilege to make use of your web page, which is bad. Always consider those people that may not be able to see your page while building your application. It's a good practice and get used to it. Any question before we move on?
I want to know, is it possible to nest this input?
Is it possible to
Nest the input tag inside the label tag
next them like how?
to carry that input? You know, you close the label tag on the code.
Okay, to place this inside this place.
Like,
No, you don't do that. What you can do is you can wrap them inside a single container. You can take these two now, a label and its input, then wrap them inside another container. A common container is div. Well, div, I will talk about div briefly. You can just wrap them like this. You are grouping them together. Then these two also, you can wrap them inside div.
if unfortunately we put the way it's said before, we leave
It will work, but it's going to lose its purpose. What happened is this. It's going to still display this input on the screen. But that's not the purpose of using the label tag. Now, when what you are doing is, in fact, this is, if anybody sees it, they will just laugh at you. They will just laugh at you. It will work. It's like it's going to display it on the screen. I think that's a better way to say it. It's going to display it on the screen, but this is not how to write the codes. But you can group them together if you want to and put them inside a single container. So I think this makes it clear that these two are together, as if you want it to be like that. Is that okay? All right. Let's move on. Now, next, we want to look at something. We call it the form tag. Form. In real life, okay, I think someone is raising up his hand. Let's go to the. Someone raising up hand. I think I had the notification. Okay. Now, we want to look at form tag. Most times, when you have inputs like this, you want to group them together as a single form. maybe you may not get that picture. Let's come to real life. I mean, physical situation. Leave HTML now. Leave HTML. Inputs are like the feet. Let's go to paper and bio. Inputs are like the feet inside a particular form, right? Like if anybody undo a form, then you have inputs there. Inputs are like the feet on that form. When you are done with the whole form, you want to submit the form. Do you understand it? When you are done, you want to submit that form. When you submit that form, then it means that you are submitting all the fields inside that form. That's the same way this works. All of these fields will be inside the form. Then, when you submit that form, then you are submitting everything the user filled in that form. That's what you're going to do now. We're going to lift all of this and take it inside the form so that it will now be possible for us to successfully submit this form. Without putting it inside the form, you need to make use of JavaScript to submit that form, which is far beyond the scope of what we are doing now. But with this form tag, it's now possible for you to easily submit your form. It's now possible. So you're going to lift all of this now, cut all of this out, and place them inside this form tag. Place them inside the form tag. Let me indent it properly. It's not well indented. Just highlight some of them. Highlight all of this. Let's see. Oops. I'm trying to use shortcut instead of doing it. Please indent your code properly. It makes it easier to read. Okay, so we have this. All of this, I will remove this action for now. So all of this now, they are inside the form tag. It is now possible for us to easily submit all of this. Remember, the reason for getting all of these inputs is for you to submit it somewhere. You are getting this from your user, not just for your users to fill the inputs. No. After they are done filling it, you want to get it, you want to save it, you want to store it somewhere. So meaning that you have to find a way of submitting this form. That brings us to another input type. We call it input type submit. Input type submit. Let's see how this looks like. It looks like a button. And when I click on this submit, it will submit this form immediately. So it has tried to submit the form. As you can see, it has cleared those things that I filled. Do you notice that? Whenever I submit it, it has submitted it and it has cleared all of those inputs that I filled because it has submitted it. Any question before we move on? So this submit button, input type submit, we submit everything inside this form. But if you are submitting it, the question is to where? Like, okay, we said it has submitted it, then to where? We don't know. Well, that brings us to something we call action. We put is a form attribute. It's an attribute that we put on the form. These things may look much like all of these attributes. So do I need to cram all of this? So you don't need to cram them. If you keep using them, the more you build pages, the more they get, or the more they become part of you. The more they become part of you. So it will get to a point whereby you won't even have to cram them. You won't have to. So action is the URL or is the point where you want to submit your form. such that when you click on this, when the user clicks on this submit button, then it will submit this form to whatever URL you put here. Let's say I want to submit it to taye.php. I assume that there is a file called taye.php. What happens inside this action is beyond the scope of this class. In fact, that is at the back end. That is at the back end. So when you click on this button, submit, it will try to look for a file called taye.php. Of course, there is no file called taye.php because we are not going there. But note that whatever URL you put here, that's where your form will be submitted to. That's where all of these things, everything here, will be sent to. Do you understand? Do you get it? If you have any question, you can ask. Okay. So I will try to save this from. We still have some other attributes to check inside inputs. We still have the name attributes, the placeholder. Yes. We still have few attributes to check in our inputs. So I can now I can fill this form now. And let me just fill this and submit. So it's tried to submit that form to taye.php, but there's no file called taye.php. There's no file called taye, but it's tried to. Let's assume there's a file called taye.php, then it's going to submit the inputs inside that file. Let's move on. You see, when you submit this, remember I said you're going to submit all of these things in a file called taye.php. Unfortunately, let's say, look at something very interesting. Let's say I put taye here and I submit it. Let's assume there's a file called taye.php. Unfortunately, there is no way for that file called taye.php to know that this taye here, the text here, stands for first name. I come again. There is no way for that file to know that the text here stands for first name. There's no way for that file, taye.php, to know that this KKH stands for surname. The taye we get to that taye.php, this KKH we also get to that taye.php, but there is no way for it to know that this text stands for the first name. The reason we know that it stands for first name is because you can see it on the screen like this, but that file cannot see it on the screen. You're only sending data to that file, and since that file is unable to see these things, this first name, last name, new password, and all of that, then there's no way for it to know that this, let's say taye@gmail.com. There's no way for that taye.php to know that this taye@gmail.com stands for email. That's the next thing we want to handle now. We want to make sure that the file you are submitting to knows that whatever text you put inside this place stands for first name. You want it to know that whatever text you put inside this place stands for last name. You want it to know that whatever text you put inside this place stands for email. So that brings us to what we call the name attributes. Name attribute. This name attribute is mainly for the server. It's mainly for the server. So I can now come here and say first name. With this now, when we now submit this form, whatever we put here, let's say James. Now the server now knows that whatever is inside this place stands for first name because of the name attribute. I come here and I give it a name attribute. I will call this surname also. So this is meant for the server. The server now knows that whatever is inside this input stands for surname, name, email. We've already put name inside these ones, so that's fine. So we will now go back now and submit and look at the difference. We will now fill this form again and submit now. I'll say James. I'll say Ajayi. I'll say James Ajayi at gmail.com. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. So when I click on submit, just check this URL. You can see now that this James is for first name. This Ajayi is for surname. This James Ajayi at this at percentage 40 is actually at gmail.com is for email. This gender on is saying that you selected a gender. This is for the what's it called? This is for the gender. Any question? So now the server now knows, the server can now make use of this data here to know that, oh, this is what this person did, this is what this person did, this is what this person did. That is the essence of adding the name attribute. The name attribute is primarily for the server. It is primarily for the server. Any question? But what happens on the server is beyond the scope of this class. Any question?
On this input type, radio type,
Okay.
that's how will the server know that we selected male as the gender?
Okay.
So we name the name the male type radio as name gender. Also, likewise, the female and custom, we name their names as name attributes as gender. So how will the server know
Okay.
that?
Oh, okay. Yes, that's a nice question. For this one, you are going to. Oh, how do we go about it? I'm coming. The radio button. I'm trying to recall how we make the server to be aware of it. HTML.
That
I'm
we
coming.
can proceed.
Okay, the radio button. I've forgotten. I'm trying to recollect. I'm trying to recollect, but I can't pick it up. Maybe in our next class, I'll check it out and pick it up. Now, let's move on for this. We've looked at this radio button and all of that, and how to submit it to the server. Then, let's look at this. Remember, we are trying to build this Facebook form. We are here to check this. These ones are not inputs, they aren't. These ones are selects. We use something we call select tag. It's another tag entirely. It's another tag. But before we leave this form tag, there is something long going on this page, and that is the fact that when we submitted this form, you can see the result on the what's it called right here on the browser, which is bad. For instance, this password, especially for the password. Let me type 12334. Especially for the password. Don't we add name attribute to the password? Password. Oh, there is no name. Name is password. So let's go and fill that form again now. So submit now. You can see the password there. So anybody standing right at your back can read your password, which is risky. So there's a better way to undo it. Just come here and put methods and set it to post. When you set it as post, it's not going to put it on the URL. Like right here. Let's refill this form now. Refresh, fill it. submit. As you can see, it's what we just filled isn't on the what's it called, on the browser's URL. Do we get the importance of using post? So whenever you want to submit pin, whenever you're getting pin from users, password and all of that, set the method as post. Set the method as post for security reasons. Set the method as post. Let's look at the select tag now. Select. I will remove all of this and talk about select tag. The select tag allows the users to select one out of multiple options, just like the radio button. So you come here and say option 1. Let's say I want the user to be able to select between bag, shoe, bag and bag. Then create another option, shoes. Create another option. Let's say top. So I want the user to be able to select just one out of these 3. So I make use of select. It works like radio button, but the display is different. Can you see this? Do you see the way it is displayed? Hello, please, can we see it?
Yes.
Okay. So, but then sometimes you may want the user to also be able to select more than one. In that case, you come here and put multiple. When you put multiple like this, the user will now be able to select more than one. So now I can select more than one. Just press your shifts and you can select as much as you want. That is for the select tag. Well, you may not know, we hardly make use of this multiple anyway. If you want to use multiple, you might just make use of your checkbox instead. But it's possible. It's possible. So let's round off our class. Let's discuss everything. Let's summarize everything we've discussed so far. So far, we talked about the strong to show that something is important. Emphasis, EM, to lay emphasis on text. Then we looked at the inputs to get information, text from the users. Then we look at form. The form allows us to easily submit these inputs. Then in your input, we look at different types. We look at type text, we look at type radio, we look at type checkbox, we look at type color, we look at different type date, type email, different types, password, and all of that. Then, there's something on Facebook that I promised to talk about. That is this shadow of text. Not something. Once I start typing, the shadow will disappear. This first name will disappear. If I start typing inside this surname will disappear. So that's what we call placeholder. Placeholder. It will get a shadow of text. Placeholder, I can call this first name. So when I start typing inside this input, this placeholder will disappear. Let's go to the browser. The placeholder will just create a shadow of text. You can see it here now. So when I start typing, it will disappear. That is place. Once it's empty again, it will reappear. Do you understand? So, I think those are those things we looked at so far. Any question concerning what we discussed tonight?
What about the input type 5?
Okay, yeah, simply type file is to get files from your users. Maybe you want your users to be able to upload a file. Input type file. So users can select files on their device. Do this. So I can select a file here and upload it. This is your profile pictures that you upload on social media. This is how it's possible. This is how it's possible. Then when you are using a select, we talked about selects. Using a select tag like this, it's always good that you add a value to each of them. I will explain why this is necessary. Let's say I want you to select programming language, so I can say JavaScript. Then let's just put another language. Solidity. Let's put another language. Python. So we have these three, and users can only select one. Let's write this in for JavaScript. So what we want to do is this: when the user select this, you want the server to know that the user has selected this. So you add the name attribute. I can call this programming. So you had something we call value attribute. So I can call this JS. I can call this value SOL. I can call this PY. So when the user select the first one, what the server will see as the value of programming is JS. When the user selects SOL, when the user selects Solidity, this is what the user will see on the screen, Solidity. But what the server will see will be SOL. When the user selects Python, what the server will see will be PY. So for many reasons, you will need this. You will need to make this of value. Oh, that even answers the question he asked the other time. For the input type radio, we're going to look at how to comment codes tomorrow. But for now, since we've not checked it, if you have input type radio, and let's say I want this to be, name is gender. Let's put inside a form so that I'll be able to submit it. Cut this out. Place it here. So I can call this male. I can call this female. Name. Now, you can now come here and give this a value. I can call this male. This is what the server will see. Then I can call this female. So when I submit it to the server, then it's going to send it. It's going to send this action. A.php. So going to the browser now. If I select this, it will send this. The value of gender is male. If I select this, the value of gender is female. So the name attribute f solve that problem. Now, any other question? In absence of questions, I wish you a lovely night rest. We meet tomorrow, and hopefully we round off this section tomorrow. This part of it. Good night, everybody. Let me stop recording.